Hello, good afternoon all. Welcome back to yet another exciting session of two-day APAC Securing India on Cloud Summit. Yesterday, we had a magnificent inaugural session in which we saw the presence of Special Commissioner of Police Delhi, DGNIC, ADG Kerala Police, and other dignitaries who talked about governance, cloud ecosystem, and the security system. Then we had a panel on dark wave and cryptocurrency. What are the challenges before the law enforcement agencies? We had a session on data privacy and also other aspects of cloud and security have been discussed yesterday. And today also we had two sessions. One session there was a special address by the Director IT Abhishek Kumar of National Health Authority Government of India. Now a very exciting session because we have the pharma digital transformation leaders with us. This session is all about leading IT through a pandemic, tech's future roadmap for the pharma sector. And for that, we have been joined by Mr. Sandeep Pandey, Chief Digital Officer, Mankind Pharma. We welcome Mr. Sandeep. Thank you so much for joining us. We are joined by Mr. Anish Gupte, Senior Director, Information Technology, Cipla. Thank you so much, Mr. Gupte, for joining us. We are joined by Mr. Braj Panda, VP and Head of Digital Center of Excellence, Dr. Reddy's Laboratories. We welcome Mr. Braj. We're joined by Joe Robertson, Field Chief Information Security Officer for the EMEA region from Fortinet. Thank you so much, Joe, for joining us today. We're also joined by Bijender Mishra, Chief Information Security Officer, Alkem Laboratories Limited. We're also joined by Krishna Saiti, Associate Vice President and Group Head, SAP, Biocon. We're also joined by Ravi, Kalla, Head IT and Automation, Anthem Biosciences Private Limited, and Mr. Aniruddha Mehta, AGM IT Alembic Pharmaceuticals Limited. We welcome all of you. These names and the speakers actually tell our audience that these are all the digital transformation leaders from the pharma sector across India and abroad who have joined us today. So without taking much time, we know we have too many speakers for this panel and we have 1 hour. So let's start the panel discussion. My first question to Mr. Anish Gupte will be that cyber security is so critical in a competitive arena like drug research and discovery. What are the principal tenets of your cyber security roadmap? Your thoughts on that?
See, while drug discovery, research and this are important, we believe that the entire supply chain, right from R&D to delivery of finished product to the consumer is important for any pharma. And while we talk about the tenets of CI, that is confidentiality, integrity, and availability, what is also important is to check out the piece around safety. By safety, I mean, you see the various attacks that we see, especially on the OT environment. And that is now becoming more and more critical. So we saw what happened with the Colonial pipeline where it triggered a fuel shortage. And similarly, we have to ensure that we take care of see the supply chain risks also that are coming in with the likes of the solar winds. So as we talk about cybersecurity in the pharma, it has to be a data-driven risk-based approach that will help us manage our risk better. While we have been working on the on identifying, preventing, and detecting and responding, the next thing is basically the prediction in terms of the predicting the different attacks. How are you going to baseline your infrastructure? And looking at the entire piece around threat intelligence and threat modeling. Yeah.
Right. We'll come back to Mr. Anish. A very important part that the data-driven approach has to be there and also Absolutely. The prediction part, very important. Let's have a perspective from Mr. Braj Panda from Dr. Reddy's. Mr. Braj, what is your opinion on this? That when you talk about principal tenets of cybersecurity roadmap.
I was expecting that question to come to me first, actually, because we had this issue last year. It made news. So when we got the license for Sputnik, we actually had this attack. Luckily, the attack was not a denial of service attack. It was more on the IP for the clinical trial data. Fortunately, the data wasn't leaked, but we had to shut down our operations for about 24 hours. And also it was sometime in, I think, October, where the plants were anyway, going through a sort of a ramp down. So the losses were also not very high. So we got lucky, but it was an important lesson to learn for the organization. And we, ever since then, the approach to cybersecurity, security is no longer an afterthought. Okay, and many organizations, unfortunately, actually go through such issues to kind of learn. And there are numerous examples, starting from LinkedIn, and then we, Anish spoke of one just now. So yeah, I think since then, I think we try to look at a three-part approach to cybersecurity, and then we look at what the usual sort of dimensions of it, right? So people, process, and then technology. So technology is something people, whenever organizations think of security or cybersecurity, they think of technology only, and then that's where their thinking stops, right? So we realized that technology, we're already at par with technology, but actually there was a breach in terms of the personnel. Okay, so because they were not aware, it's no one's fault, but just that they were not trained enough. So then, we bolstered that training mechanism and the awareness processes, strengthened them. So yeah, so I think that the three parts that any organization has to look at is going to be, people and process and technology to kind of strengthen this security aspects.
People, technology, and process. Let's have a perspective from Mr. Krishna side from Biocon. Mr. Krishna, your thoughts on this principal tenets of cybersecurity roadmap?
Yeah. So we have, obviously, I think most of the part has been covered by Braj and the other speaker. So primarily, we focus on the activities which are related to the data part of it. Nowadays, anyway, data is the critical part of the entire organization, and we do have certain initiatives which have been done specifically on the cybersecurity, especially focusing on, there are a lot of things what people or internal employees or even external take it as granted, in the sense like there are some things which are, very small, like, like the passwords or even the attacks which people reach out for something else. So those are the cases we are trying to educate the people through regular, let's say information, whatever is available, and also keep them updated with what is happening. So it's very important that the employees or the team, whatever we have, is aware of what's happening on the, this is a very dynamic, let's say the situation. Every day in and day out, we keep looking at different kinds of cyber attacks and all. So that is where we are trying to focus on how do we keep ourselves updated, even our employees updated, and focus more on people. I think that's what I think Braj was also talking about.
Keeping ourselves, people, everybody updated about the threats and the latest technology innovation. Very important point by Krishna side. Let's have a perspective from the industry. We thought about the pharma sector. We had a perspective from the pharma sector. Let's have a perspective from the tech industry per se. Let's have a perspective from Joe Robertson, Field Chief Information Security Officer of Fortinet. Joe, you heard the digital transformation leaders of various pharma companies sharing their thoughts on the cybersecurity roadmap. How do you see, what are the areas of collaboration you can see, especially when it comes to ensuring cybersecurity?
Very good question, and I appreciated the input from the first speakers. And one thing that really jumped out at me was what Mr. Braj Panda was saying about the fact that it's really a function of people, process, and technology. And for me, actually, the first line of defense is people. And the better trained your staff is, the more that they are aware of cyber hygiene, the more threats they're going to stop, because they're not going to be clicking on attachments. They're not going to be plugging in unknown USB keys, things like that. So that's absolutely the first line of defense. But then technology is there to kind of act as the safety net when that doesn't happen. I like to think of it as a tightrope walker. Okay, at the circus. And the people defense is someone with good balance who doesn't fall off of the tightrope. But when someone does fall, you put a safety net there. And a safety net has crossed threads. Okay, it's big ropes that are crossed. And the tighter the weave of those ropes, the smaller the holes. Well, that's what technology in security, cybersecurity is all about, having as many different ropes crossing over each other within your security environment to catch attacks in any part of the attack sequence that they occur. Because really what you want to do is catch them as early as possible. But even if you catch them just before they detonate their weapon, you have actually succeeded. And at my company, we call it the Fortinet security fabric. The whole idea is to have lots of different devices that are able to talk to each other, software that's able to talk to each other, and give you a complete view of what's happening in your environment, and hopefully protect it well, like a safety net.
Right. So important insights by Joe. I come back to Joe. We talk about cybersecurity. Let's have a perspective on the cloud per se for the pharma sector. We have with us Mr. Sandeep Pandey from Mankind Pharma. Mr. Sandeep, what are the most critical newest technologies that pharma companies are using in the sense that if you want to know what lies ahead for future for cloud computing or leveraging AI, MR, robotics, your thoughts on that?
Sure. So let me, so my view on this and the way we are approaching this is, in some sense, let me be honest, we don't have a technology roadmap. Yeah, what we have is a business roadmap. And what we are trying to do is to solve that business problem. What are the technologies that get used? Yeah. So what we have seen now across different use cases is that there are certain technologies which inevitably become part of the answer. Yeah. And hence they become the default go-to kind of an answer to yeah. So some of the things that you mentioned, so for example, cloud. Yeah. I mean, to be honest, cloud, AI, all of these were edge technologies a few years ago. They're now right in center of what we need to do and how we need to do things. So cloud is now, something we definitely, for any business problem, cloud first is our strategy, which means whatever we are building, we're trying to build on cloud so that we can leverage the benefits of it. There are definitely use cases on the AI and ML side, which are coming from different parts of the pharma value chain, right? So manufacturing, which is where, to be honest, most of the AI plus IoT kind of uses, the industry 4.0 kind of use cases are coming in around, asset utilization, asset, in fact, asset tracking in some sense, yeah, predictive, all of that. So AI, ML, also on the R&D side of things, trying to make sense of data. So these have now become very critical for us. We have always been pretty mature in terms of automation on the manufacturing side, yeah. But now what we are also doing is we are trying to bring in the aspects of automation in the back office, in other parts of the entire company. So automation is coming in big time, yeah. So these are some of the things that we are doing quite a lot, quite well. And the other thing that we are definitely doing is leveraging social media. Yeah. So now it's increasingly important for us to be in touch with our stakeholders, with our external stakeholders. And what better way to do than to do it with social media. So these are some of the things that, as I said, depending on what the business use case demands, we leverage. And yeah, these are kind of emerging as the go-to solutions or the go-to technologies for us.
Right. Important insights that let's see how others respond to this as well. Let's have a perspective from Mr. Ravi Kalla from Anthem Biosciences. Your thoughts on that, Mr. Ravi?
See, most of the pharmaceutical companies still they're on premises. The biggest challenge is we operate in a remote locations, and getting a proper, the internet is one of the challenge. And most of the data what we generate, say for example, varieties of data, large volumes of data, which will be on premises. And we are trying to push non-critical data, non-GXP data to the cloud kind of environment as a backup or DR kind of solutions. But if you look at the pharma, the end customer is healthcare. Now, the biggest challenge between pharma and healthcare is they're not interacting with each other. And as per the latest, national medical health records, so most of the hospitals may, have to share the health records to the cloud or blockchain kind of adoption in healthcare may significantly improve the cloud adoption. But some of the organizations, especially manufacturing kind of thing, they're all on premises, and whoever is in supply chain or generics or those kind of companies adapting cloud, that makes sense for those kind of organizations. But typically manufacturing driven companies are keeping the primary records in the on-premises, and then only the DR or backup kind of a thing adapting cloud. And definitely cloud helps actually creating analytics platform rather than building their own or proprietary kind of thing. We can use those kind of technologies.
Right. I'll come back to, cloud is the present, cloud is the future. It's all up to us how we leverage cloud with both its pros and cons. That's a reality. Mr. Aniruddha from Alembic Pharmaceuticals, your thoughts on that in terms of cloud computing, AI, robotics for the pharma sector?
See, I think a lot of has been talking, spoken about AI or robotics or cloud, etc., and a lot of focus has been there on the R&D side or the drug life cycle or the QA/QC or the manufacturing side. But one of the major sides where where pharma companies faced major problems during the pandemic was the MRs or the reps meeting the doctors, because in-person meeting was not possible. And that was the major hit which almost every pharma company took. So, one of the major technologies which the pharmas will definitely have a look at now is augmented reality, which gets into closed loop marketing. So how can they, get in touch with doctors over video calls and, deliver drug efficacy or drug details or the molecular structures and all those details, and those detailed discussions over a video call with augmented reality is what is the future of pharma marketing. So I think with the manufacturing and all these things, but AR is the future, which will also help in pharma marketing, plus also something which might help to reduce timelines in your drug development life cycle, where a lot of molecular structure and testing basic molecular structure with AR will save a lot of time.
AR can be the game changer. That's what Aniruddha was saying. So let's have a perspective from Bijender Mishra. But Bijender, I'll ask you a different question. That we heard about cybersecurity, heard about robotics, cloud, emerging technologies. How has the analytics been successfully leveraged in drug research, especially in the pandemic times? Your thoughts on that? Bijender, are you there? I think there's some problem with Mr. Bijender. So let me ask this question to Joe. Joe, how do you see the role of analytics can play a part for the pharma sector?
Well, analytics covers a huge amount of ground, of course. When it comes to cybersecurity specifically, I think it's crucial, because what we're trying to do is notice information that is going odd, if you will, that we're trying to notice activity that is not normal. But you have to know what normal is to be able to notice what's not normal, of course. And so what analytics is bringing in a lot of information, enormous amounts of information on activity within the network, within the compute environment. And it's an amount that is far beyond what a human being could look at, even if you put it on graphs and charts and really notice something. So machine learning and artificial intelligence are being used now more and more, and in the future, we're going to see this become even more prominent, to notice small deviations from the norm and alert a human being as to it, or in many cases have automatic responses because a signal is recognized as being indicative of an attack or of some kind of known abnormal behavior, or which is new and needs to be acted upon. So analytics, already analytics in general in pharmaceuticals is a crucial skill, because that's how in the pharmaceutical industry you analyze the efficacy of a medicine in trials and things like that. Well, that skill is also something that is going to be more and more brought into the IT and the cybersecurity realm for exactly the same reasons, to check on the health of, in this case, not the body, but the network.
Right, right. Analytics is a very important tool when we talk about leveraging technology for the pharma sector. Let's have a perspective from Mr. Anish Gupte. Your thoughts on using analytics for the pharma sector, especially in the new world order with new world order realities.
So typically, analytics nowadays is being used across the spectrum, I would say. And it really brings in efficiency, like what Joe has rightly pointed out. Efficiency is about operations, distribution, demand planning. It actually brings in more speed and quicker decision making. Okay, so that is what we see when we implemented analytics within our organization.
Right, right, right. Sandeep, your thoughts on that?
Sure. So the way we are approaching analytics, look, I mean, I'm yet to find one part of the business where analytics cannot be helpful. Yeah. So if somebody comes and tells me it is not helpful, I'll be royally surprised. Yeah. So it's kind of cutting across, and that's what I think Anish also mentioned, that across the spectrum. So the way we are approaching this is in the form of a T. Yeah. So what we are trying to do is trying to enable our different functions with the help of descriptive and some sort of predictive use cases, so that their decision making is more data backed. Yeah, and in certain cases, for certain functions where we know that we are fairly mature and where the advanced analytics will start making sense, that's where we have started identifying what are the predictive and even in some cases prescriptive use cases that we can bring in. The thing about analytics is not why or what. The thing about analytics is how. Yeah. So the problem that we face today is, we have realized that analytics is important, and data has to be kind of protected, used to make decisions. But what's happening is most of my data is residing in paper forms, in silos, in the forms where you cannot kind of bring it together and make sense out of it. So today, the thing that cripples us in some sense, or I may not use the word cripple, but slows us down, is the how part of it. How do you start bringing all of this together so that you can then put the analytics engine on top of it and start making sense of the whole thing, right? So what I foresee is it's going to be a slow start, but once we have taken care of the underlying data, we have done the plumbing well, then it'll pick up speed, and we'll probably see a very different graph of adoption.
It's not about what and why, but rather how to use the analytics. Quite interesting, Sandeep. Mr. Braj, your thoughts on that? How important role can be played by analytics, especially with the realities of the new world order for the drug sector, pharma sector?
Yeah, am I audible still?
Yeah, you're audible. You're audible.
Right. Sorry. So I'm going to build on top of what Joe and Sandeep mentioned. Right, the application of analytics is really huge, and whenever somebody asks me where all it can be used, and the answer immediately is where all it cannot be used. Right. So we can keep rattling off list after list starting from research for drug discovery, drug design, the SAR prediction, 3D protein structure simulation, patient stratification, predicting drug responses, you name it, analytics is applicable everywhere. What I would rather do, and I think Joe and Sandeep really covered well, what I would like to add on really is also by taking you to the previous topic that we were discussing, right? Like the newer technologies. See, one thing that we are focusing a lot is building these platforms of platforms. Okay, so different business units of the organization have their own platforms, right, to run the business. What we do is we try to basically tie everything together with a super platform, as there's a new term that the industry has coined. And what these platforms or super platforms do, as you would expect, is generate this humongous amount of data, right? Now, it is one thing to have the platform and have the data. The other thing is to make use of it. If you don't make use of it, obviously there's no point, right? And it's very expensive. So I think what we have realized is while using advanced analytics as a mechanism for transforming your business, the most important thing is to do a very thorough exercises of prioritization, because the organizations would always have a tendency to get lost in analysis paralysis, or getting confused with so many use cases lending themselves for effective advanced analytics usage, right? So it's very important to really figure it out, what is priority, and then invest there. And obviously good to sort of start with the low-hanging fruits. Industry has plenty of examples these days, especially during the pandemic time. The whole AstraZeneca NVIDIA partnership. Then there was partnership with Microsoft with an institute in India for the COVID drugs. So there's plenty of industry examples. I think one takeaway from that, again, that I would like to highlight is it's not only organizations and startups and all. So first thing for sure is don't try to do everything yourself if you're already not already good at it, right? What we try to do is that not try to do everything ourselves. We basically get into the market, see who in the industry, see which organizations can do these things better, and we're very happy to partner with them. That's one. Second thing is, we don't only look at startups, okay? Because there is a missing link there, right, between organizations and startups, and that's really the academia. So we also make sure that we partner with academia to make sure the right variant, right flavor of the technology is brought in-house to basically help solve the business problems.
Right. Krishna, your thoughts on this, that do you think that analytics has really helped the pharma companies in terms of drug research during the pandemic and the ongoing scenario?
Yeah, so I think majority part of the general analytics is, I think anyway, all of us have covered it. So there is no question on whether analytics is there or not. So for sure it is there in all the functions. So one of the use case, or one of the unique thing what we also found out, which is very interesting for pharma, for sure, maybe if someone might have been already done, is we found out we have been doing a POC on that to see whether it is really worth or not. We do operate, almost all of us operate with highly flammable materials and all, right? So in our labs or in our manufacturing area and all, especially on the labs. So if there is a person who is working on a typical material which is highly flammable, highly risky or whatever, we are trying to now build video-based analytics where if the person is supposed to let's say in the night or in the 24/7 when the person is working on, so if he has got any other let's say the issue or whatever, if he is not moving for let's say 2-3 minutes or something like that, it is supposed to trigger the alerts and all, right? So those are the kind of let's say the granular part of video based analytics which says yes, this is relevant for safety part of it, wherein the safety will come in. And also now if you look at from the pandemic part of it, which we were also exploring, whether there is proper social distancing has been maintained or not within the manufacturing area, where we will not be able to, though we tell them, so obviously because of various reasons they come in into one area and all that. So whether they are maintaining the social distancing and all, and trigger the alerts based on that outputs what these video images or videos are generating, and trigger an closed loop analytics from there. I think that is what we have explored. I think for sure some of our peers might also have been done, but these are, I feel, are the different kind of use cases for analytics in pharma.
Great insights by Krishna. Sai. Mr. Ravi, your thoughts on that? Ravi Kalla from Anthem.
See, the challenge what we generally face in pharmaceutical, we work with multiple softwares, multiple OEMs. Integration is the biggest challenge. What we did in Anthem, we don't use multiple OEM supplied PLCs or SCADA systems. We completely monitoring and controlling. We built on our own DCS. And with that, we are able to build the analytics platform for manufacturing. So if you look at in pharma, we have R&D, manufacturing, and development, like clinical development. So the analytics plays a major role from R&D to the clinical development to take the drug, the drug discovery cycle to speed up or to bring the efficiencies in all the processes. So what we are trying to do is we are connecting R&D, manufacturing, and development. That includes clinical trials. So we are using in multiple places. Now, as a first layer, we created a data lake. So we are trying to bring R&D data, manufacturing data, and the clinical data into a single platform. From there onwards, we started working with analytics. Say, for example, in manufacturing, we want to know why the batch is behaving differently. We have a batch analytics. Since we brought all the utilities, clean utilities, the black utilities, process, building management systems as a single platform, we're able to achieve significant amount of analytics with the manufacturing data. And by using that data, we are able to derive why the batch is giving a better yields or the quality is an issue. So we are able to predict all those kind of things, and also we are able to predict the the batch performance, our product performance, and when we use different equipment. And also we are trying to, especially COVID taught us a lot of lessons. We are trying to do flexible manufacturing. We're trying to bring the analytics in the flexible manufacturing. It helps us to reduce the footprints of manufacturing. And with the smaller footprints, we are able to achieve the continuous match manufacturing also. So Anthem is ready, getting up for personalized medicine kind of a manufacturing, and with using the analytics.
Right. Aniruddha, your thoughts on that?
So I think everybody's spoken about analytics, and most probably.
Aniruddha, can you hear us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now we can hear you. Yeah.
Oh, I think some network lag. I was just saying, see, analytics, like everybody said, they've covered a lot of, almost everything related to analytics and everything. But one,
I think some network issue with Aniruddha, maybe connectivity issue, I guess.
You cannot hear me?
We can hear you, but it's breaking. Your video is also frozen now, so.
I know, I can see everything.
No, but we cannot hear you properly or can't see you properly. Your video is frozen. Maybe you can try to fix this. Let me move to the other question for other panelists. In the meantime, you can just try to fix it. Can you hear us, Aniruddha? I think some problem with this connection. Okay. Let me come back to Job. Job, in terms of technology, what can be the issues which you think are on anvil to have a futuristic ecosystem for the pharma sector, especially when it comes to cybersecurity, enhancing security, and also using newest technologies? So what can be the future technological advancement interventions you can foresee now?
Sure. And I would like to actually start by going backwards a little bit. In fact, Ravi Kalla just said some things that I found very interesting, because he and his organization are really doing what we're going to be seeing more and more companies, pharma certainly, but other types of companies doing, and they have really converged their IT and their OT operations, their operational technology, so their production information, into that giant data lake that he was talking about. And we're seeing more and more of that. But what that means going forward is that this interconnection between the production environment and the back office, the business environment, the IT environment, is only going to be getting closer, which means that in future years, the ability to cordon them off in logical segments, being able to separate the IT flows from the OT flows and only allow that which is permitted to go from one to the other, is going to be crucial, because as of right now, almost every breach that we see in an OT environment has actually started in the IT environment and spread through interconnection. So going forward, the way I think we're going to be seeing more and more companies have to take OT security into account. And it is not the same thing as IT security, that a lot of the same tools are used, but they have to be used somewhat differently. And we'll see that going forward. There will be more and more tools which are specific to the production environment, asset inventory types of tools, and more and more tools for doing, just as I was saying, analytics of what's happening in that production environment, because it's very different from the business environment. Most of you have production machines that use different industrial protocols. They're not just IP, which is what we see in the rest of the network. And so some people think, oh, we're protected because the attackers don't know Siemens S7, for example, or Modbus. But in fact, yes, they do. And so going forward, what we're going to see is more and more tools like firewalls, intelligent firewalls that are focused on the OT side of security, and more tools that are there to look for unknown threats. One thing that I think is going to be a big technology for pharma especially is what's known as deception technology, or honeypots, where you imitate some kind of production machine that's well known, a Siemens machine or an ABB machine or something, and it actually attracts an attacker who thinks it's the real thing. And as soon as he comes into the honeypot, you know that you've got someone who has breached your security walls. You can figure out who it is, and you can put in place blockages. Those are the kinds of things that we're going to be seeing more and more of, more really advanced threat detection.
More advanced threat detection, the future lies there. That was a perspective from Joe. I'll come back to you. Let me come back to Mr. Anish Gupte. If I may ask you that, how was the IT team or the IT department in a pharma company evolved from a cost center to a profit center scenario? What are the cornerstones of your future IT roadmap? Mr. Anish, if you can shed some light on that.
So, Souvik, I would be very candid in this. This concept of profit center typically works well with in the service industry. Ours would typically remain the traditional cost center aspect. It is just about saying from left pocket to the right pocket kind of a thing. If I was to look at the profit center, cost center kind of aspect. However, the way that we are looking at it is, how do we work as a partner rather than a back-end service provider to the organization? So today, what we have done is having embedded our teams within each function. So we have this IT business partner concept that we actually have gone ahead with, wherein each of these are like the tech consultant to the function, and they work along with the function heads to understand their requirements, their day-to-day requirements, and how new technology can really help them in this journey, and what can be beneficial to the business as we go ahead. So we partner the business in the business transformation and especially in the digital journey. That is how we would look at it, more from a partnering perspective rather than a cost center, profit center perspective.
Partnering perspective rather than looking mere at the prism of cost center perspective, right, Mr. Anish? Sandeep, your thoughts on that?
So yeah, my answer on the question that you asked is probably very similar to what Anish said. Yeah, I mean, I don't think we are making some attempts to think of digital as a business model, so that it can start helping us in the top line, etc. But we are in the early stages. Yeah, so as of today, cost center it is. But yes. Now, at least in our case, what has happened is, and I think Anish also referred to the same thing, that we have now started getting involved. Earlier, what would happen is business would think of what is to be done, right, and why it has to be done, and then when they're thinking of how it has to be done, that's when you turn towards IT and say, help us with how it has to be done. But today, it's not the case. Yeah, today what's happening is, the technology teams are involved upfront in identifying what are these use cases, what's the best practice out there, how can technologies be leveraged from within the industry, from across the industry, etc. Right? So that's the shift that has happened. What we the way we have been able to kind of, let's say, find the seat on the table is what we say the garage model, yeah, wherein there's a cross-functional team, the team not just from the business but also from technology, coming together and trying to solve the problem. Yeah, and that's how we start making our presence felt, have the seat on the table, start making those valuable contributions up front. Yeah, so that's what we have been attempting. Now, technology, especially in today's world, is so ever evolving. Yeah, so the way we are trying to change our IT organization, our technology, let me not say IT, the technology organization is one, fail fast, and two, continuous learning. Yeah, these are the two things. And when I say continuous learning, it's not just learning on the tech aspect of things, but also the mindset. Yeah. So to me, if I must summarize in some very high level top words, these are the things that we are trying to ever emphasize on the team. And this is something where if they don't fail, I think we have done a good job.
Right. Let's see if Braj has some different opinion on that. Braj, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, actually, I do have a different opinion on that. Thanks for asking. So I totally understand, right, where Anish and Sandeep are coming from. By the way, a little bit of background about me. I'm ex-McKinsey, so is Sandeep. Served a lot of enterprises in the different industries, varying digital maturity and technology adoption maturity. So I understand where they're coming from. Fortunately for me, Dr. Reddy's though has been a good adopter of technology, and I'll tell you why that has happened. Technically speaking, we might still be a cost center because we are an enterprise at the end of the day. We are not in service organization. However, what has happened in the past few years, and thanks to the leadership's constant push, is that it is no longer the fact that business comes up with an idea and then throws it over the wall to IT to kind of execute it. Okay, it is more like, okay, so we now have two flavors in the organization. One flavor is where business still knows the business better compared to IT, so they would take IT along whenever they're going to learn some ideas or embark on a new envisioning exercise and all that. So that's 50% of the case. The other 50% of the case, however, and that's where I really feel fortunate, is that we have translators and SMEs within IT itself. Okay, so we do our own envisioning ideation exercises to bring in outside, the industry best practices, the newer ideas, innovations in the industry to the organization, and then we basically try to evaluate it. Okay, and business happily partners with us and all of that, right? So it's a very nice cohesive, symbiotic sort of a relationship that we have, which is the reason why I think our digital adoption has been really something to be proud of.
Sure thing. Krishna Sai, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think I agree with the other participants. So we are also as a cost center now. But however, so whatever.
Do you agree with Anish, Sandeep, or with Braj?
Anish and Sandeep. Right. So what I was saying is, so being a cost center, so obviously, which means that, the budget discussions concerning whether it is to fund, not to fund, how do you justify and all. But we did deliberate. There are some ways to convert that to a profit center, but we might have to take a careful let's say approach on that. So one way what we are also looking at is there is a lot of soft costs. If you just say that there is some element of cost which will get saved through the kind of automations what we bring in. So let's say the RPA or your robotics, whatever we try to bring in, there is an element of savings which have been done with respect to the kind of time spent, the resources or whatever. So that is what is the kind of one input which can be considered as revenue per se, if you wanted to call that, as generated by IT team. But that is obviously will not be sufficient. That's like a smaller part of it. Then the other idea what we were also deliberating internally earlier was also that you charge to the business, right? Okay, if you want a service, you charge to the business and then say this is what it is, which is definitely a double-edged sword, where what happens if business comes back and then says that, why should I take this service from you only? Right, that there is outside I can go and take the service from other side. So that has got a lot of let's say the pushback from the business. So it is still a cost center, and I feel, as per my let's say this is my personal opinion, that it will continue to be a cost center in the pharma, majority of the pharma, barring some exceptions, being a cost center as it is. Only we can justify the investments through the kind of the example what I said, the kind of automations or the digital technologies what we are bringing. Accordingly, the time which is saved, the resources which have been repurposed or whatever it is. So that's how we can justify and convert that.
And just to add on to what if I may talk, sir, because I do agree with what Krishna as well as Braj has also mentioned. So whether it is a cost center or profit center, it does not stop the digital journey. Yeah. So the partnership that IT or technology, if you want to put in a better word for it, still does the same thing in terms of providing what the business wants, as well as bringing in the new technology that will help them have possible use cases to bring more efficiency and productivity to the business.
Right. Let's have a perspective from Mr. Ravi Kalla. Mr. Ravi, your thoughts on that? Do you agree with your fellow panelists?
I agree with Braj because we are also following the same approach. What we did at Anthem is we brought, anyway, IT systems is part of IT. The business systems and the manufacturing systems, that OT systems is part of IT. When I say it's part of IT, including the sensors, walls, the control technologies, everything is managed, designed and planned and implemented by IT. With this, we are able to achieve a high degree of analytics because traditionally these kind of technologies, OT systems or business systems, are decided by the QC or manufacturing or the quality guys. So what we did is internally IT, we created these verticals like business systems handled by IT, as well as manufacturing systems or OT systems handled by IT. And we are able to integrate seamlessly IT, OT, and business systems together. So that's the one thing which we did it. We are able to convert 1,000 different type of vessels, like, manufacturing process, be it a reactor, fermenters, bioreactors, or the downstream vessels, clean utilities, black utilities, and building management system is part of the IT-OT integration. And with this, we were able to achieve high degree of analytics as well as cost saving significantly. Because traditionally in manufacturing, what happens is every process like fermentation, biologics, or chemical, or other business formulations, they have their own systems, business systems. It runs on their own hardware. Now the integration is the biggest challenge when you want to do digital analytics. what we did is we brought into under one single vertical where it runs from our data center, and we have also ensured the IT/OT cybersecurity, as Joe told. So we ensured a lot of, significant amount of savings in terms of hardware, licensing, integrations. So instead of becoming a cost center, we are also trying to save, instead of implementing as standalone, as a network or connected machines, we're able to save it. And also we become a reference sites to many companies and those kind of technologies that also helped us to save significantly, because when we are given an opportunity to startups or the vendors to experiment with us. So in that way, we were able to save significant cost to the organization.
Right. If I could jump in here just for a quick moment, Souvik, if you don't mind, because in a lot of cases, IT has to deal with things that can't be cost justified. You can't put an ROI on it. This is what I've heard from a number of people. In security, we see that a lot. And I've talked with a number of customers who have used the ROSI system, ROSI, return on security investment. I think that Braj Panda was saying that Dr. Reddy they were attacked, they were able to limit their losses. Well, that limit of losses, that can give you a number which you can plug into an equation, which is similar to an ROI equation, but it's saying, here's how often I get attacked, how much on average I lose, and I'm going to put some kind of tool in to protect me from that, which is going to work X% of the time. And then it turns into an ROI number, which you can compare to an ROI for something where there is actually clear reduction of cost or a new machine. That's something that was created by the EMEA, the European cybersecurity agency. And I want to throw that in because it could be it's well worth looking up, ROSI, because it can be very valuable in a cost justification type of situation.
Right. I think all of you have spoken at the various aspects of cloud, cybersecurity, analytics, the cost part, and I'm sure the audience who are present here who are also watching live, they have got great insights on the present and the future roadmap for pharma sector in India and abroad as well, when it comes to leveraging technology. What Mr. Anish was saying and what I can see the backdrop of Joe, I end this session with this note, on this note, that the digital transformation journey will continue to sail through. I can see a yak at the backdrop of Joe. So let's continue sailing with the digital journey or digital transformation journey of pharma sector by leveraging cloud computing, analytics, ML, especially in the new world order. And there's no stop in learning, and there's no stop in convergence and collaborations. And I'm sure the pandemic, the new world order has more than ever has now shifted the focus on the digital innovation part. That can be for pharma sector, that can be for manufacturing sector. And whenever we talk about digital transformation or digital innovation for any sector, security and saving that data will be of utmost importance for any sphere. Thank you so much, Mr. Sandeep Pandey from Mankind Pharma, Anish Gupte from Cipla, Mr. Braj Panda from Dr. Reddy's,
Thank you.
Joe Robertson from Fortinet, Krishna Sai from Biocon, Ravi Kalla from Anthem Biosciences, and Aniruddha Mehta from Alembic Pharmaceuticals for joining us today for this exciting and insightful session on leading IT through a pandemic, tech's future roadmap for pharma. Take care.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you, everyone. It was a great discussion.
Everyone.
Loved it. Thank you so much.
And for our viewers,
Thank you.
who join us
Lots
for
of
the
fun.
next session at 3:30. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thanks.
Bye.
Lots to learn. Thank you, guys.